The following episode contains or may contain spoilers. So if you're spoiler sensitive, maybe beware.
Yeah, you sensitive people.
Get out.
No, get in.
I know less about the Hulk than I did before I started researching.
I feel the same way. I thought I knew this guy. I don't know.
Well, we're going to get into it because...
Welcome to the Phantom Zone. 3 fans, 1 podcast, and a sea of comics.
Hell yeah.
I'm Noah.
Kayla.
Jared.
Yeah. So today we have a Patreon fan pick episode.
Whoop, whoop.
First one, we finally had time to do it, and I think it's pretty timely. So
Totally.
we are going to be talking about the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, you give us a little green, we'll give you some green. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I normally try to ignore the fact you tell jokes. But
Yeah.
that was good.
In this case, appropriate.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, so we'll go over, like always, on our deep dives with characters. This is a little weird one because we didn't plan this one. It was kind of like, hey, this is what I want. I'm like, oh man.
We wouldn't have picked this.
No.
We actively resent the person who picked it. No, that's not true. That's not true. We're very excited about
We
it.
love them.
Very excited. We love it.
So we'll get into it. So the Hulk, or Bruce Banner, or I'm just going to name some of my
Do
favorite
the names.
aliases he has.
Yeah.
There's like 40.
This is
course.
hilarious.
It's ridiculous. So Robert Bruce Banner, Breaker of Worlds, Patient Number 133, Green King, Green Scar, Green One, Eye of Rage, World Breaker, Joe Fixit, Mr. Fixit.
Nice.
that reminds me of Wreck-It Ralph.
That's where he came from, apparently. Bruce Franklin, Bruce Green, Bruce Bancroft, Bruce Baxter, Bruce...
Who are these people?
I don't know.
So what it is, there's a lot of incarnations of Hulk, we know that. And there's a lot of, he's changed his name a lot to hide from authorities.
That is true too, yeah.
So I have my 2 favorite ones.
Okay.
Mighty Bob
Mighty Bob.
and Friday.
Okay.
Just Friday.
What?
Oh no. So anyway, his name is Bruce Banner.
Next
and
time you got to look up the weird ones, because now I'm like, after the show, I'm going to be like, where's Friday from?
I'm just going to leave it a mystery. So if anybody knows, you can go ahead and
That's a
tell
good
us
idea.
because 90% of these I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
Hey, Phantom Zoners, what's up with those names?
And then his powers, everybody knows his powers. Bruce Banner turns into the big, green, Incredible Hulk. His strength is limitless.
Ish. Maybe.
I mean, it goes
Don't know.
with his emotions, how angry or how sad or whatever he is. It just goes with his emotional distress. He has super speed, but it's limited. He can leap long distances, which makes it look like he's kind of flying because he can go really far. He has a shockwave clap, which is pretty iconic for him.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Me too.
It's really cool. He did it in the Incredible Hulk movie,
He
right?
put out a fire.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Isn't that exciting? Never
But
mind.
it like looked cool as hell when he did it.
Yeah.
Like the shot of him doing it. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's going to kill everybody. And it's like, oh, he doused those flames. Okay, no, it's good.
And his other power, he has a healing factor. Pretty good one, too. I mean, it's up there with Wolverine for sure.
Probably more so.
Yeah.
Or in the
He-
Deadpool
He can
level.
grow back limbs. I don't think
Oh my gosh.
Wolverine can do that. So, yep. And then he, as Bruce Banner, he's great in nuclear physics. So he's really smart. Oh, and he has resistance to telepathy. So
Oh, that's cool.
that's an added bonus, I guess,
Because
with
there's 2 brains in there.
gamma radiation.
That's true. Hulk's like Bruce Banner is one of the greatest geniuses in Marvel.
Yeah.
Not to be
Yeah.
underestimated.
I mean, but there's a lot.
I know.
It's
but
a little...
I put him in the top 10 without question, maybe the top 5.
Because, like, out of the, let's say, 7 Avengers, like, 6 of them will be the smartest
Well,
people on
who
the
you got?
planet.
You got Reed Richards. You got Tony Stark,
Pym,
Hank Pym,
Bruce.
Bruce Amadeus Cho, which we're going to get into later. It's a little teaser. Very smart. Sometimes Black Panther is considered way up there, depending.
Sometimes he's smart,
Well,
sometimes
it
he's
just kind
not.
of doesn't get mentioned in that list, but sometimes he's definitely up there. Usually
I would think his sister's smarter than him, but
she wasn't in the comics forever, so
yeah,
they
but
weren't
now
like,
she is.
so even before, like, you should see his sister. She is totally.
But now she is. So we're gonna do it a little different this time, since most of the deep dives we're doing it before they have a movie coming out.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that the superhero movies that have come out that we've done deep dives with haven't had movies before. So this character has had movies and TV shows and been all over the place. So we just have a little discussion about what you like about this character in the movies. I mean, I think he's been underutilized
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, before the movies, what do you guys think about the character generally? Like, what's your impression of?
I mean, he's okay. I mean, it's just like, I like Solomon Grundy, but I don't really care too much about him. Like, I mean, he serves his purpose.
Yeah.
I like him on a team ensemble and kind of just being a brute force and then just going away.
So coming from a DC direction, you're like, well, Green Solomon Grundy's okay, I guess. I get that.
At least he rhymes.
His name, the Hulk's name, was originally Dr. Jekyll Frankenstein. I don't know if you guys know that.
Was it really?
No.
But
Okay, your
he's
face confused me.
He's so derivative of those characters. He turns into something better, but it is funny. And we'll talk about it later, but the origin is just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's hard to not. It's like, okay, he's a zombie who turns into Dr. Jekyll. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an original-ish character because the whole Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing just gave him super strength. I've always liked his kind of origin and stuff where he's come from. But like I said, the movies that have come out, I don't care for. Like, it's really hard to stay invested, especially in a character that's not himself when he's the superhero, quote unquote. I mean, it's just him fighting another big thing. Like, I don't really feel like there's any emotion there except when he's Betty. Yeah. Like, and that's it.
Well, I like him, but I think it so depends on whether the story is good or not.
Yeah.
Kayla, what's your... This is a pretty far afield from your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what's your impression of the Hulk?
Just so you guys know, I was the only one that was like, yeah, let's do this. Oh my God, the whole time. Noah and Jared were like, I don't want to do the Hulk. And I'm just like, come on, guys, it could be fun.
I do not talk like that. I want to be very clear about that.
But no, I don't dislike the character. I obviously don't actively seek the Hulk out in any of the mediums. He's not my first choice, but... I think there's something really interesting in the duality between Bruce Banner and the Hulk. And again, I like Bruce Banner more than the Hulk, which matters in terms of comics.
Yeah.
So, I mean, any story where they're like he's really struggling with control or anything like that, I find very fascinating.
Right.
Again, because of the nature of the Hulk's powers, I don't find it very fascinating that a lot of the stories are like, I have to punch something even harder. Something that punches back equally as strong.
Yeah.
But when the narrative goes away from stories like that, I actually do find the character very interesting. And I think, and there have been really good examples of stories that center around the Hulk that are really strong.
Let me tell you something, Kayla. You're goddamn right. I'll tell you right. I really do feel that way, though. I think the biggest weakness of Hulk comics, and this plagued them kind of recently, is that it is just, oh, he thinks he's strong. Well, not as strong gets. And then, so you're right. And I think the problem they've always had, and this segues into the issues about movies, is that how do you do a Hulk movie where the character we all want to see isn't the actual character? In other words, Hulk, and then the thing that's got all the personality and meat and stuff like that basically doesn't get to be there for most of the story.
Well, that's why I liked Ragnarok so much, because you got to see Hulk like have a personality and like he was funny and he was charming and he was, you know, a brute force, and it was really good because that's the Hulk that I think should be in a movie.
Yeah.
Because the past movies, I feel like personally didn't work for me because it didn't have that. Not because he didn't talk or anything. It was just more, okay, like, I mean, he's not Bruce. He's obviously struggling with this. When he's the Hulk, he's just this destructive force. So it's like, how do you make this movie relatable and how do you make it, I guess, enjoyable?
I do think Ragnarok was the strongest example of the Hulk being in a movie and being successful. And I feel like Bruce Banner in the Avengers was really strong. Yeah. Too.
It's crazy that the character is better when he's a character.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
Funny how that works.
It's
right?
very true. And what's interesting to me is that it's like there are these impediments that created issues with the Hulk that make us be like, oh, that's what the Hulk's like, because he was popular that way in the cultural conversation. So a good example is that show. Before we get to the movies, most people learned about the Hulk through the Lou Ferrigno and green paint.
Yeah.
Lou Ferrigno is a crappy actor. He's deaf, so he has a weird voice. Weird in that, like, for most. I'm not saying deaf people are weird. Okay, anyway, moving on. But point being is he never talked in the show, and so people are like, "Oh, the Hulk doesn't talk," and that translates. It's never been really that way in the comic, or there's been a few iterations, but for the most part, Hulk is that character. But we get 2 movies where the Hulk never talks, which has nothing to do with the comics. It's from that show,
Yeah.
and it really plagued them.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And it is a weird thing. And I think that's my biggest grievance with him, because I feel like he's not utilized well, because they just hold him back in something as simple as talking. Like,
I think casting Mark Ruffalo was a good choice. 'Cause
I
that
do
man
too.
is so charming.
yeah.
It was he knocks it out of the park, because the first 2 Bruces I didn't think were bad. But they
Yeah.
didn't really give him much to do. Eric Bana's in the first major motion picture I thought was pretty damn good. I actually even believe his anguish.
I really like Eric Bana as an
yeah
actor.
yeah. And then Edward Norton, I don't think it was bad. He just didn't seem like he had a lot to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I didn't care for that one. I mean, there was definitely some cool scenes. To me, it felt weirdly unnecessary, like, especially since that's one of the first ones in this universe.
I feel like
It's
they had good
really?
pieces. They
Yeah.
just didn't put it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very exciting.
Wasn't Liv Tyler?
Liv Tyler was Betty.
That's right.
She's so pretty.
She's pretty.
But we did get William Hurt, I think, who played Thunderbolt Ross, and he actually continued throughout the series.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was great.
He doesn't have much to do, so I mean, it
Yeah.
would make sense that he would come in for 5 minutes and then leave.
And that actor, honestly, fantastic.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good actor. Yeah, so I mean, I just think that they really need to utilize him well. So I mean, we'll see. I feel like something's coming.
Got to mention this as a question because it comes up a lot. Do you think Hulk is capable of a solo film?
Yes.
Or does he need ensemble? Okay, so that's more optimistic than I thought you were going to be about it.
Why? Because I was just shitting on everything else that he just did.
A bit, but some people just subscribe to it because he's unquestionably good in ensembles. He has been. He's people's favorite parts in most, or one of their favorite parts in most of the Avengers films. He was great in the Thor Ragnarok. So that's a property that's completely tested and approved. The question is, can you do a Hulk movie?
Yeah.
That you think so?
I think so too.
I mean, there's
especially
a reason,
going with the trajectory that it's currently on.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
There's a reason why he's had his own comic
Yeah.
for this long. Like, I mean, he can have stories, but they just need to get the right Hulk, I guess, which I feel like they do, but I don't have any faith that they're going to do a solo Hulk film anytime soon.
They need the right script. Yeah, that's true.
I feel like they're
based
just
on phases.
yeah. I mean, I feel like if they do, it might be at phase 7. I mean, who knows?
That's when
like-
everyone's a Hulk. It's
Yeah.
a whole Hulk phase.
Or it's just be like She-Hulk, her
Yeah.
coming in. Like, I don't know. All right, we'll get into our normal deep divey stuff. Let's start with Kayla and her editorial history.
Tell us
Of
about the
course.
comics.
Yeah, no, it's Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, because of course, right? The Incredible Hulk came out in 1962. Like you had mentioned earlier, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were very inspired by Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and also Gollum, the creature from Jewish folktales. And so that was kind of the inspiration for the character. He started out in the first issue as gray, but the illustrator, Jack Kirby, was like, this is the worst looking thing. So he kind of without telling Stanley a little bit, added green and shading and stuff. And then it's referenced kind of in a hilarious way sometimes in Incredible Hulk comics, kind of to date. They'll be like, oh, look how he's gray in the origin story. Obviously, that didn't last very long. Barely lasted an issue.
Maybe it was just the radiation setting in. It just needed some time.
It had to settle.
You said it and forget it. That's Stan Lee is quoted as saying he wanted the Hulk to be gray so as not to make him one ethnic group.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's like, yeah, but all the other characters you made white.
Yeah.
Why is he the one
that you're super conscious about?
Yeah. Yeah,
That is really. Also, you could use literally any other color.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, well, I can't do blue. I don't want him to think he's from Guam. Okay.
oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Obviously, the green stuck though.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kirby.
Iconic.
The issue, The Incredible Hulk, though, it was canceled after 6. So
Really?
Yep.
Why?
First run through.
Well, we don't know.
Because they wanted him to be gray.
Also, yeah.
Green didn't pull well with our readers.
Just make him green? Fuck you. He's dead. I'm dead. No, but I think a lot of it, maybe it's worth looking up. Maybe they didn't know it was going to be forever. Maybe they just intended to be a short series.
Like a limited run.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
A year and a half later, he appeared as a guest in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And then that same year became a founding member of the Avengers. And then within the first 6 issues, kind of became a villain for the Avengers. His history is very in and out of anti-villain, anti-hero, actual hero, actual villain.
Mm-hmm.
He's been all of the titles.
See, that's interesting.
Yeah. Another interesting part of the character that, underutilized. But anyway, he came back kind of solidly featured in Tales to Astonish, which a lot of his other supporting cast members and villains started popping up in that as well. That was 1964. Introduced Leader Abomination, which I will talk about later. Basically, since then, he's had titles canceled, going in and out. The Hulk, just Hulk, the Rampaging Hulk. I mean, there's just tons of different varieties.
The Incredible Hulk, the Gray Hulk.
Hey, look, it's the Hulk. The
character became truly an icon for Marvel. There were 2 straight-to-television movies that did really well with the Hulk, and then Lou Ferrigno's television series ran 1978 to 1982, and just like that character became iconic.
That's a long time for TV shows back then.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah. It was
a drama.
super successable. Yeah.
He's and it's funny too because of the power differential. Because like in the comics, like he lifted up a mountain, and then the TV is like, green guy just broke that fence.
Look how strong he is.
We'll never fix that fence.
That's actually, fun fact, that's actually my mom's cousin. And
What?
I've met him
Lou
twice.
Ferrigno?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is weird. That's my dad's cousin. That is so. No, that's not true.
That's probably not true coming from your dad.
That part isn't true, but that's super cool.
Yeah. So when you were like, he's a horrible actor, I was like,
Yikes.
I hope my mom doesn't
No, I
listen
don't
to
think
this.
he's a horrible actor. It's just it's hard for him not to sound deaf because he's deaf.
Oh my God.
That's not. That's okay.
So basically he's come in and out of comics, series titled a variety of things. Some of the iconic things that happened in 1998, Betty Ross was killed, changed the trajectory of his stories for a while.
Yeah, the love always dies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what comics are like. What do we do? Well, we could kill a girl.
I was going to say, specifically if you're researching any female characters, like Noah was mentioning, I think a couple of episodes ago, it's kind of exhausting.
Yeah, I think most of the characters I talk about are like the love interests and they always die. So that's why.
I think a lot of times they're like, I think this is between you and your wife, Bob. Maybe you should go home.
The character kind of got revitalized in 2006. Greg Pak took over writing for the Hulk, and that's where you got Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, and that kind of, those stories are freaking awesome in terms of Marvel fans, Hulk fans, any fans of comics.
They're definitely like the definitive ones that like, oh, this is what a Hulk story could be.
In our lifetime.
Yes,
It's like
in
our
lifetime,
generation's Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, up to date, he's still in and out, ensembles, sometimes solo runs, but 2006, man, was when it really turned a corner.
It seems like a lot of Marvel comics and characters, like really in the early 2000s, hit their stride.
I agree.
And they've been that way since then. I mean, obviously there's like events happening 3 times a year, but I feel like that was a good time for Marvel.
I also feel like it's because of the movies.
That is true.
It's like a shot, not even that they copied them or something like that, but just like a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I feel it's true. I think a lot of comics got revitalized then.
Yep.
Well, that's the editorial history. So let's move into the character history. I submit to you, gentle listener, that the Hulk, who is the Hulk? That's what, like,
I just named 40 different names.
I
He
know.
doesn't even know.
I know. And
I know less about the Hulk now than I did before I started researching for
Me
this
too.
episode. I'm so confused.
Well, there's what I think is interesting about this character is if you ask most casual readers or non-comic fans, what's the Hulk like? They'll be describing, and I'm going to get into it, a character that was around for maybe 20 years. And then some of the rest of the Hulks are often dramatically different.
Yeah.
And there's this, it's more like a set of themes that gets fleshed out, but a lot of the physical tropes of the characters are it's just different, like, than a lot of stuff. So anyway, here's the basic story, and we'll kind of go over the big hits, so to speak. As you know, the origin is Bruce David Banner. He's a physicist, and he's working on a gamma bomb because back then physicists had no conscience. It was, for the military.
Of
But
course.
it's being sabotaged by those evil Russians. Those Russians. Hate them. Anyway.
It really tells you the time.
Yeah.
Like, these origin stories, it's always like Nazis and Russians.
Yeah.
It's like,
And also nuclear power.
Yeah.
Because that's true. In the
Yeah.
60s, like, this was going to, elevate everyone into the future, but also people are super afraid of the consequences because they're like, oh, it poisons children, whatever. Anyway. Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, making the bomb, they're doing the test, and Bruce sees a guy playing around the bomb named Rick Jones. Rick Jones is a very popular character. We'll talk about him later.
we have talked about him.
I know. But even in this episode,
Like
we're going to
a
talk
few
about him later. Yeah,
times.
he's really been a pain in the ass to a lot of
Playing
people.
around the bomb.
Hey, who's
like-
that
he's-
hippie skipping around our bomb?
Yeah, he's Jimmy Olsen in Marvel. Like,
He
I
was-
mean, he's
he was
just
a rock
always
star.
getting into
he was,
shit.
He was trying to put a flower into the barrel of the bomb, and he's like, "Oh, it doesn't have a barrel. I'll just sit here and smoke a joint." So that's probably what he did. Anyway, so Bruce goes to save him. But the guy, and I don't think it's Emil Blonsky. Emil Blonsky, later on the Abomination, we'll talk about him, is involved in the sabotage. But in this case, I think it was a different agent. Instead of stopping the bomb, he just lets the bomb go while Bruce goes and tries to save Rick Jones. And then, oh no, he does get Rick out of there. He saves him, but he is bombarded by gamma radiation. And then that's the beginning of the Hulk.
It's
character.
like a Dr. Manhattan thing.
Very
except
much, yeah.
He was trying to save somebody, not just casually got stuck in a room.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or vice versa. I think
Yeah.
in some ways that that sort of was an homage maybe to that sort of moment. But anyway, so what's cool about the Hulk and doing this history is that there's just so many different incarnations. We can do a little roadmap like that. Now, the first one I'm going to call the Proto Hulk. Okay, because he doesn't last that long and he turns into something else we'll all know and love. But as I think Kayla mentioned, he's gray at first.
Yeah.
Right? But printer errors and stuff like that can't really...
This is gross.
Which is
I could just
insane.
see him being like, slightly green. Yeah, this looks good.
Yeah,
Keep
it just
going.
becomes more green.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, from what I understand, that there was a kind of technical error where they couldn't get this gray consistent. So he would
That
look
makes
like a
sense.
different color each time. And that's how... Like the technology was where it was like they couldn't handle gray. They were undone by gray. It was like only primary color. So he slowly becomes green. The other thing is the transformation wasn't by anger yet, right? And so it was actually night was usually how it worked. At night he would turn because it was very
So
much
he's a werewolf.
similar. Yeah, very much like Dr. Jekyll. I think the way I haven't read that novel, but I think that was the idea is that Mr. Hyde would come out like at night or whatever. And he also wasn't stupid. The Hulk was attitudey. Again, very much like Hyde.
Sorry, I'm just like dying.
You were holding it in, and I was like, don't want her dying.
No, and I think the biggest thing is that he wasn't dumb. I mean, there's some argument about whether the Hulk is ever dumb, but he didn't talk like a child. That was the thing.
Betty.
Yeah, he didn't do the... but by Tales of Astonish number 66, which came in 1965, the Hulk has crystallized into what we think of now as often called the Savage Hulk, or the Green Hulk, which is... He's green, obviously. He anger incites his powers. It does a transformation from Banner to the Hulk. And he talks... in that not just childish way, but he's always like insulting. He's like a good roast comic.
Yeah.
Because he's always like, if you're like a fish, he's like, fish man, or whatever.
Yeah.
He always knows exactly what to call it.
God.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Or if somebody's like, sometimes something creative, like it's a lady in red. It's like, red lady. Okay, slow down before you pass out. So that's the Hulk that is going to exist for about 25 more years. And moreover, this is the Hulk that's been the most like in pop culture. So this is what most people think of when they think of the Hulk. And also, I think in this period of time, which is interesting, all of the major themes that are going to plague the Hulk comics are going to kind of continue here. So it's like Banner versus the Hulk.
Yeah.
To what degree are they entities, separate entities? To what degree is it just some version of the Hulk? Will Banner get control over the body, that kind of stuff. And so that's basically what you get. And then finally, there's a story that happens around Incredible Hulk 300 where they separate and we find out that it was Banner's presence and his mind that prevents the Hulk from being like infinitely angry, and he goes on this huge rampage, and it's awful and everything like that. But it turns out they can't exist without one another. So it's also the story that kind of suggests like that they're never gonna separate. He's never gonna get cured.
Yeah,
which is a big thing. So finally, and this is a real fun moment, when they're brought back together to save both of their lives and prevent the Hulk from being a rampage monster. The Hulk comes back and he's gray again. So it's now we have the gray Hulk. Exactly. What's cool about this story is they kind of go back to what the original Hulk was. And they say, okay, well, printing has reached new competent levels of technological ability.
We can do gray now, guys.
Yeah. And so and then you have the gray Hulk, which is, again, sort of that first thing, gray by night and also not stupid. He's a more id-like creation. He also, this is where the Hulk goes from being this sort of savage, sad character who's always being hounded by the military, but really is just wants, I guess, to play with toys or something. You know what I mean? Just like to a guy who works for the mob. This is
that makes sense.
Yeah. So when he reappears, the Gray Hulk to the public, let's say, he reappears in a suit with a fedora. So Hulk wore a fedora.
So he's Tombstone.
Exactly. Yeah, ostensibly. And he went by the name. He was a mob, casino collector named Joe Fixit.
Oh, that's where Fix-It comes from.
Oh my God.
Yeah, or Mr. Fix-It. And this is, I think Todd McFarlane's early work appears in this series. This is actually one of my favorite Hulk series. Because the Hulk can now be a real fleshed out character. He's evil. I mean, or at least anti-hero-like. Most of the time he is the protagonist and he fights villains.
Hulk side is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Hulk side. And there's a great Super Skrull fight in this time period. It's really some really fun stuff.
So, what... So is the Hulk like an entity? Like, I mean, it was always there, and it just got awoken by
we're gonna
Gamma?
We're gonna get into that because
I was only confused because when you said they were separated, it's like they can't live without each other. It's like, well, he didn't exist before.
I know.
So
be patient. We're gonna get into it in the next iteration. But so what we have on the table now is the Gray Hulk, and he's again kind of an anti-hero, likes to beat the crap out of people. Usually not too villainous, but definitely dangerous, and only comes out at night, stuff like that. But the problem is, all of a sudden, the Green Hulk reappears.
Wait.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where exactly. Then we learn that no, the Green Hulk wasn't just. This isn't just the Hulk's changed, or it's that there's now several personalities on the table. And we find out that there's always been a Gray Hulk and a green personality inside of Banner, been fighting back and forth. In comes Doc Samson. Okay, well, we'll talk about Doc Samson in detail later, but. Just he's a therapist, and the idea is that he realizes that for Banner to ever be a non-insane person that destroys things or becomes this evil green thing, he needs to integrate his personalities, and this effectively happens. And because it's comics, therapy can be done in just a few conversations. So, So what we get is what's called the merged Hulk. Also known later as Professor Hulk, and he's a really cool iteration of the character because he is got the strength of the Green Hulk, the Savage Hulk. He has the intelligence and mind of Bruce Banner, and he's got kind of the theretofore repressed id-like desires of the Gray Hulk. See, Banner had always been kind of a meek dude who had repressed all his stuff. So he needed to kind of just be more assertive and I guess kind of a dick. He needed to be more of a dick. And so all of those things are under one heading. Also, I should mention, the Gray Hulk was less strong than the Green Hulk. The idea being that because of the reason that he had less access to his like rage, like anger or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that was like kind of, this is the next major instantiation of the character, is the merged Hulk or the Professor Hulk. I should also say this is where the Hulk is probably going in the movies. This is what they seems to have heavily suggested.
One can hope.
Huzzah!
Yeah. Yeah. But for a good, like, 20 years, I think somewhere in that territory, this is the Hulk we get. And he takes on a more action hero-y role. He's drawn, I mean, so one, it's Banner walking around in the green hulking body, so he can actually go on adventures and be heroic. He joins up with this group called the Pantheon, which is sort of like the Avengers Light. They do cool adventures. He often has guns. He's a little bit more like Hellboy or Savage Dragon in this case.
Big enough gun for him?
Yeah, well,
Did he
it's like
specially made.
Well, yeah, basically.
I just imagine he has to be very careful.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, another one.
But he is a cool. This is also just for trivia's sake. This is the Hulk that was in the Infinity Gauntlet. So he's just kind of like he kind of a little bit more swashbuckling. He enjoys it. Now, what's interesting here is that even though this is a sustained role, you'll notice, okay, so there's no longer a dilemma. Writers can't really have a kind of like torn personality. It's like we really wanted the character to get here, but he's also like, he loses all of the cool horror elements. Mm-hmm. So what we find out later is that that's in fact not a perfect merger. The turns out the Professor Hulk, the merged Hulk, was a personality all itself.
Jesus Christ.
And then we have a thing that called Future Imperfect, where we learned about the Maestro, which we'll talk about later. But point being is it's important because when that happens, he's so terrified of turning into the Maestro, again, we'll talk about it in a second, that when he represses all that fear. And now when he gets too angry or fearful or has a bad reaction, he becomes Savage Banner. Now, Savage Banner is just that merged Hulk's version. He turns into a weak, banner-bodied, crazy person who is ridiculous. Yeah, I thought you guys would like that. So this is ridiculous, but the idea is, of course, the Hulk can't be happy. Yeah.
Poor Bruce.
I mean, to me, it just sounds like one really messed up Captain Planet of a person. Like, he's just so many different types of things that come together.
Absolutely. So that's cool because what you point to there is that you have this idea of like emotional instability and then gamma energy forming awful, powerful, monstrous sort of things, but of any number of incarnations, and it's just like different colors every once in a while. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because we should go a little back and mention that. Why is all this going on, right? Why does it? So what happened apparently is
comics?
because comics, but in those comics, Bruce Banner's dad, Brian Banner, was a scientist and a monster. Now, this isn't the first movie this comes out. Nick Nolte plays a character, and he's maybe one of the best things in that movie. And it turns out he was a monstrous alcoholic that, in a fit of anger, kills Bruce's mom. Mm-hmm. He creates multiple dissociative personalities. And then when the bomb's radiation hits him, the nearly infinite gamma radiation enjoins with his messed up psyche energy, because that happens. And that's how
have you ever been blown up by gamma radiation?
Not while being a dissociative crazy person, but... So basically that accounts for why you have all this turbulence and everything like that in the Hulk that is also connected to his anger and powers and stuff like that.
Now all of that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because before I'm just like, oh, they just decided one week, like, oh no, this guy's going to be a mobster now, and he's going to be great, and a fedora.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. We can stop for a second just to say this. There's this thing where the Hulk seems to always need turbulence and crazy and new and an explosive new incarnation. So anytime a story gets kind of stagnant, that rather than just some events changing, writers want to kind of like have the Hulk himself come out to be a new incarnation, like, oh, now he's got no legs or whatever it is, right? So after
the pink Hulk.
Yeah. So after this period where the merged Hulk is basically, turns out, wasn't a perfect combination and was only going to change, we get into some transitional stuff, mostly because of the whole Onslaught thing. Hulk gets cut into two directions. He has to go into the Franklin Richards universe, and Bruce Banner does, and the Hulk that's left stays in our sort of thing. And there's a lot of turbulent sort of stuff, and we don't really get anything in it. Every 6 issues it'll be sort of different until the next big period of time, which we can call the Green Scar, or whatever you like. But it's during Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. This period. There's also a super emo-y Hulk, I have to say.
Yep.
So what you need to know away from just the stories is that what you're going to see is Bruce Banner. But when he turns into the Hulk isn't stupid, and he's not like Joe Fixit anymore, in that he's not a crafty, like, hey, I'll punch you in the mush if you don't get back the money, or whatever it is. The Hulk becomes this more like, not stupid, but very quiet, emo-y character, nihilistic. He just wants to be left alone. That's the idea. Just
I like
leave me
that
alone.
Hulk. I'm just saying.
And in a lot of ways, that's the Hulk that in the comics we were introduced to.
Yeah.
What, again, not stupid, not talking like a child, but not talking really much at all, and wants nothing to do with anybody,
It's like
whatever.
the Ragnarok Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
much.
This all basically stems from the fact that the Illuminati, which is a bunch of heroes like Iron Man, Reed Richards, Doctor
Beyonce,
Strange.
Jay-Z.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I thought you were talking about the real Illuminati for a second. I was like, oh, shit got real.
It's basically all the really smart, crafty heroes, sort of who decide they're going to kind of control the Marvel universe from the shadows or whatever. One of the things they decide, and they're not wrong, is the Hulk is a little too unstable, so they're going to send him to a planet that's peaceful. Probably got a lot of rabbits.
Was
Cute
it?
little rabbits he can just pick up and eat anyone.
Was it
Just eat
peaceful,
those
though?
rabbits or whatever. Well, no. It turns out they just get the course wrong, or there's some sort of like,
course.
yeah, some sort of comet that hits it or
These
whatever.
people that decided to,
Yeah.
rule and
Yeah.
decide the universe couldn't get coordinates right.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And so he ends up on Sakaar, which you would have seen in the Thor Ragnarok movie, which is a warlike planet. Hulk gets captured. He goes through a whole, he basically does the movie Gladiator, but just as the Hulk.
It's like everything leading up to before Thor gets there.
It is, and but just I have to stop here and say it is funny how when that movies are derivative, people are like, that movie is crappy. It's just this or that. Sometimes a comic book can be really well done and well known and accredited and everything like that, like Planet Hulk, and it's just Gladiator. It is just Gladiator. Anyway, but it's a good one. It really is. He comes back after having survived the planet, really pissed at all the Earth heroes, and you get this awesome World War Hulk story. And really, and he doesn't kill everybody, but it's a really good story. Check it out. Point being is that Hulk, the Hulk from that, which is this really strong, powerful, potentially world-breaking Hulk, is the Hulk most of us are going to kind of know for the next, I don't know, good 10 years or so. Most of Greg Pak's run, and then this next issue is what I like to call the crossover years. Mm-hmm. You just have
Years?
Civil War II and
yeah.
Secret Wars. And the point being is the Hulk kind of just, and Axis, the Hulk just kind of is whatever those stories need him to be.
Yeah.
Like he dies.
Yeah,
or
exactly. He dies or he comes back as this opposite version of himself, like the Hulk's Hulk or something like that. We're almost to
weird.
present day. There is one last incarnation I kind of just found out about because of the research, which is the Doc Green personality, which I just think is super cool, which is Bruce Banner is trapped inside the psyche, but it's Hulk's personality and Banner's intelligence, and he decides he's going to go on a mission to get rid of all of the gamma-powered characters because they're all awful. And so he reasons they're a blight on and a potential danger. So he's gonna
Is he gonna kill himself?
No. Well, maybe. Read the story to find out because I don't want to there's.
I'm only curious because he's like,
No, I know.
we're a blight, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to kill myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill all of them.
Maybe when the job is done.
That's the sense you get, but I don't want to let you know.
Yeah.
But so he goes on this it's a really cool structured sort of thing where he goes into all the gamma characters. And I think it was also Marvel's way of being like, look, we have irradiated way too many people. There's way too many gamma people going around. So let's have him, get rid of that. And then we have present Immortal Hulk, which is a fantastic series. We'll talk about it later, but it's really good. And that is the story of the Hulk.
Hulks.
I deserve a round
Hulks.
of applause. Let's see. Yeah. Hawkeye.
Yeah, this is why I'm glad you did that part, because just looking even at some of these supporting characters, I'm like, fuck, god damn it. Okay.
But lesson. The thing to take away from it is that when you read a Hulk comic, if you pick it up, depending on the year, you're going to get a very different kind of character. Mm-hmm. And so as a new reader, don't be amazingly surprised if your idea of the Hulk isn't like what was going on in the 90s or the 80s or the 60s or what have you.
All right, and now time to get into the supporting characters, the people that make the Hulk or help make him, I don't know.
The other people you got to know
Yeah.
to know the Hulk.
So the first one, we can't it's just like Spider-Man or Superman. We can't talk about the Hulk without talking about Betty or Elizabeth Ross.
Or Betty.
I told you not to do that. Fucking. Okay, anyway. So she's the daughter of Thunderbolt Ross, which is a villain of his. She's a military brat. She's been a coworker, girlfriend, and wife of Bruce Banner. Their early life of happily married bliss was soon cut short when Betty's constant exposure to the Hulk's gamma radiation made her sick.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the poisoning was so strong that she nearly died. Banner invented a cure, but then the Abominations swapped the blood samples and killed her.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That was relatively late in her history, too. Like, Betty was around for a long time.
Yeah.
And she was kind of used as that kind of, like, we need to get the Hulk mad. What do we do?
so use her.
Punch his girlfriend in the face. Or something.
Yeah, after that, her body was kept in stasis for whatever weird reason. That's
Kinda
weird.
like-
It's like a Mr. Freeze situation.
I was just going to say that. Nora,
Yeah.
you're so cold.
I mean, that's one of the bigger things in her history. Throughout her history, especially in the early days, it's just as Jared said. It was more of like, oh, I'm going to capture her to make him mad. And then he's mad, and then he frees her, and then... that's it with Betty.
Yeah.
But one of her, I guess, standout things I thought was really funny when she was kidnapped by MODOK. And
MODOK.
what does it stand for?
It's a
again?
mental organism designed only for killing. It was calculating, but he was like, I'm evil, so I will kill. Which doesn't make sense because he wasn't designed for that. He took it on later on, but that's fine.
he evolved. He evolved.
Yeah.
So anyway, he kidnapped her and wanted to make a new weapon against the Hulk. So what he does is he injects her with more gamma radiation
Nice.
than the Hulk has ever been exposed to.
Oh my.
She turns into the fucking harpy. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, big wings, big feathery legs. Like, I don't know how gamma radiation translates to that, but it's weird.
Yeah.
And that's what she's always gone through. She gets transformed into a bunch of different things to go fight the Hulk.
This poor lady.
Yeah.
The Hulk is a weird character in that all of the characters that surround Hulk are all powered by the same source.
Yeah.
Because like Superman, it's like he's got a lot of super villains, but they're all differently. They come from different places. It's all the same green energy.
I think they just think like fight gamma with gamma.
Yeah.
I mean, what else are you going to do, I guess? Yeah.
Gamma got us into this situation. Gamma will get us out.
Half the time, it's all derivative of the Hulk too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so. And then she became Red Hulk. Maybe. I don't know.
She did.
So, I mean, she did, but it's very confusing whenever. So you're reading the story and you're kind of just trying to see the timeline of where Red Hulk came from, or Red She-Hulk. Sorry, I should say that, not Red Hulk.
Yeah.
So Red She-Hulk, she comes out of nowhere and helps Red Hulk when he was fighting Wolverine. He gets blinded by Wolverine, and Domino's there as well. Gets help by her. They go back to the base that Red Hulk is operating out of, and then double crosses him and escapes. So that was one of the last times you see Red Hulk, or Red She-Hulk, but Betty Ross's body washes up on shore, and Red She-Hulk is still around.
Yeah.
So...
Switcheroo!
At this time, there was also a proliferation of different Hulks. And She-Hulks, and different color Hulks, and all kinds of stuff like that.
It was Skittles.
Yeah, and it didn't work out that well.
That's
Most
funny.
of them did not stick around.
Taste the gamma.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's she has been Red She-Hulk. They kind of made it a little convoluted throughout the history. It's not too sure. She got plastic surgery. She's come back. She's been back as Red Hulk. Now she got an injection where she can never be Red Hulk again.
This always feels like just a bunch of writers having an argument over a period of 15 years where they're like, she's a monster. No, she isn't. She's dead. No, she's back. She had plastic surgery. She's got bigger boobies now. Shut up. Like,
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And I mean, that's what they do, especially with female characters that are supporting characters of the main hero all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. But that's really all I have to say about Betty.
Yeah, the story of Betty is she was a kind of boring supporting character lady who was used to make the Hulk mad.
Yep.
Or madder. And then
Experimented
they
on
brought her
countless
back
times.
as a monster lady. She does look pretty bitchin' as Red Hulk, though. Red She-Hulk.
Yeah, she does
I
look
gotta
really
say.
cool.
Yeah. She's like a biker for some reason. Like, why are you wearing a leather vest? Okay, no, fair enough. That's fine.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about Betty.
Yeah.
That's
So she was a Red She-Hulk. But wasn't there another She-Hulk?
How dare you?
Wasn't
Yes.
that?
Yes, the savage, the sensational, the lean, green, mean She-Hulk.
Nice.
I love those tags of her.
Yeah.
So Jennifer Walters, she appeared in Savage She-Hulk #1.
Hell yeah.
actually, in 1980. So she's not that old compared to most of these other characters.
We all love the She-Hulk, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
I think even just aesthetically, she looks great too. I love all of
awesome.
like the covers that she's in. Like she's
Yeah.
busting through a wall and then she has like papers and she's like, "You've been served."
Because she's a lawyer.
Because she's
Yeah.
a lawyer. Yes. So her powers, she's super strength, just like the Hulk. Agility, speed, healing, increases strength, reserves with her heightened emotional state. So she has more strength than she knows, just on her base level, kind of like the Hulk, but she really has to tap into those. She's resistant to telepathy as well. I guess it has to do with Gamma. I don't know.
The way
why.
the way they usually explain it is they just have so much rage that when the telepaths go in there, they're overwhelmed by the level of anger.
Like they couldn't even channel it.
Yeah.
Doc
I mean, it
Samson
makes
did
sense.
a couple times.
Yeah. And then the thing that makes her different, the two things that make her different from Hulk, is she has the ability to fourth wall break.
Yes.
Like this character fourth wall breaks in the comics because she's aware that she's a comic book character.
It's her and Deadpool, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's so cool. And then she has the body switch ability, which I'll get into later, but she can switch bodies and those powers go with it. So her creation, though Stanley is credited as creating She-Hulk, the character had... So during the TV show, they were going to make a female Hulk. And Marvel was like, nah, we need to get on that trademark. So Stanley was ordered to make a She-Hulk. That way, they always had the right to She-Hulk. So I always thought that was kind of interesting.
It makes sense, too, because Hulk is an English word. We don't hear it or use it as much. So there's no reason why DC, in the same way you could do a Wonder Man at Marvel, there's no reason DC or another comic character couldn't do a She-Hulk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I just think they just wanted to keep the trademark, that name associated with
Absolutely.
them. Yeah, I mean, it would be crazy, though, if that TV show would have done that, then they would have had the rights to that name.
Yeah.
So there would have been a whole Fox and Marvel situation
That's
way back in the 70s.
Some of the most fun doing research is the trademark stuff that they do purposely for that. Yeah, it's a mess.
And then just to get into her origins, so after being shot by mobsters.
No!
And she's the cousin of Bruce Banner. I don't know why I haven't said
right.
that in the beginning. That's how also she's related to the Hulk. So he saves her life after being shot, gives her a blood transfusion. He has gamma all throughout his system. Don't know why he didn't think that would happen, or he probably did.
I mean, it's like she's gonna die, or I have to do this thing.
Exactly. And
the doctors don't usually ask hey, you're not the Hulk. I just want to make sure before we do the blood transfusion.
Yeah, so from then on, she's been She-Hulk. She got blood transfused. She woke up green with tattered robes and everything, throwing a fit in the hospital. So she's a lawyer by day, and she takes on companies, big corporations like Raxon, which is heavily in the Thor current run, which I thought was really interesting because I didn't know that. But her law firm is actually named after comic book legends, which I thought was really cool that they did. So you got Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway. So Goodman, Marvel's first publisher. Stanley, original surname was Lieber.
Lieberman.
Jack Kirby, originally born as Jacob Kurtzberg, and Holden Holloway was the fourth member to appear in the 2004 She-Hulk run.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
So I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, that's really sweet. But one of her standout moments for me is when she ripped Vision in half.
Yeah.
After Scarlet Witch went crazy and killed most of the Avengers and made She-Hulk just rage the fuck out. So she ripped Vision in half. Why not?
Yeah,
That's why.
He gets broken a lot. It's true.
Aw.
And
And they put her in stasis after that. Again, like they keep putting these women that in stasis.
Fridged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're literally
Kind of a light
fridged.
fridging in this case.
Yeah.
But it's true, and she was well before Professor Hulk, by the way. Had her intellect. That was like she wasn't just a female Hulk. She had like the ability to be like a smarty.
What I'm
And also Ben Steele.
rereading the novelization of Civil War, and so in one of Tony Stark's like stream of thought, he's thinking about Daredevil, and it's like, oh, Daredevil's going to be a problem later. And then he's thinking about the She-Hulk, but particularly her ability as a lawyer. He's like, oh man, she's a good lawyer. That's going to cause me trouble later.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, oh, she's super strong. It was like, man, she's a kick-ass lawyer. I
Yeah,
gotta watch out for that.
And the cool thing about that is like in the beginning, she did struggle with it. She did struggle with the both personalities, but she came to terms with it much easier and much more fluid than Bruce ever did.
Female.
Yeah. I mean,
She's a woman.
that's definitely one of the best things they did about this character. Like, no, she's strong and she knows what she's doing. She has the ability to do this. And she is the Hulk when she's being a lawyer too. So she's in the courtroom all green and everything. I'd be like, yeah, whatever she says. Like, she's right.
She like I said, she's a lawyer, and it is funny because it's like if you have some kind of job in Marvel Comics, you will do that job in every comic because it's either Matt or her. And usually the way it works is like if it's a more public superhero trial, she'll be the lawyer.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm not Daredevil.
Yeah.
He's right. He's not Daredevil. Yeah. And then, so I really like her fourth wall break and what she does with it in the comics because they don't use it as much now because I think Deadpool has that whole side taken care of. But she used to literally jump from panel to panel in the comics just to get somewhere faster.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's also like threatened to fire the writer because she's like, "This is bad writing. Why are you doing this?" And you see like the writer be like, "I'm the narrator. I could do what I want." She's like, "Watch me." It's
adorable.
really cool. I just think it's an interesting thing with the character.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the body switch. So in Sensational She-Hulk number 45, she was on a Skrull ship. And she had to warn her friends. They were normal friends for some reason on a Skrull ship with her, by the way. So she wanted to warn them about it. And the Ovoid, this race of aliens, they have this technique where they can body switch. Essentially, that mind, everything of that person goes to the other person.
Sure.
So she learns how to do this and does it with her friend. But her friend now has the power of She-Hulk and not her. So now it's up to her to save her and her friends.
Yikes.
So I think it's very interesting. She doesn't use it as much anymore, obviously, but it's still canon, apparently. So I think that's really cool about her.
I should also add Avenger. She's an Avenger.
Yeah.
And she has the far more illustrious Avenger history than the main Hulk, than Bruce.
Oh, yeah. Now, she's been in much more teams, too. I mean, she's been in the Fantastic Four. She had this one that I thought was really cool called the Lady Liberators, and that had Black Widow, Medusa, Scarlet Witch, Wasp, Valkyrie, Storm, Tigra, Hellcat, Spider-Woman, Thundra, Invisible Woman. It was a great run.
Yeah.
Only lasted 12 issues, but
I remember
just that cast, it's just so cool. And the thing I like about them was originally that team was manipulated by Enchantress, but they still stuck around afterwards and just did like humanitarian work. So it's like, oh, that's so cool.
And I was one of the people that thought that she should have been in the Avengers.
Like the movie?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, just because because there's no reason the Hulk in that context couldn't be a woman. I understand it wasn't in the cards, but as an Avengers fan, like, yeah, I much preferred it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's She-Hulk. She's really cool. I mean, we could do an entire deep dive on her, but I thought I'd kind of mention some of my favorite things about her.
Of all the characters that are the side characters, her most of all, for sure. That she has enough of a history as a hero and everything like that.
Well, she's her own
Yeah.
I mean, she shares the name with the Hulk and she's related to the Hulk, but I mean, she has her own slew of villains and time. I mean, Red She-Hulk is one of her villains, so I thought it was pretty interesting too.
And Titania. And Titania is a bitch. Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah, when Titania got the
Power Stone.
Yeah, the Power Stone, and she was going to kill her, but then she was like, wait, can you take this gem from me? And he's like, yeah. So then she drops the big rock on him, and I was like, damn, bitch. You can't take it now. But yeah, that was a really cool story, by the way.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So, some other supporting characters. I'm gonna go through them relatively briefly. One we've just mentioned a lot, which is Rick Jones. Rick Jones, again, like the Jimmy Olsen of the Marvel Universe. And I don't know if I'm sad or happy because there's just been a big sea change. He's just not in much now. He used to be the kid.
Good.
Yeah, whatever. You're just like, it's dumb. I mean, I don't know. Is it dumb? I mean, the thing I like about Rick Jones is that he did bind all of the characters together in a certain way. They almost all had... It's like he was like Coulson, but a roadie instead of a spy.
Yeah.
In that he was, it's like everybody
he
kind
had
of
less importance and just kept showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I mean, like, there are some exceptions. Spider-Man didn't really have a Rick Jones connection or whatever. But anyway, so the idea, again, he was the guy that was saved by Bruce Banner originally, the kid or whatever. He was Bucky, a replacement Bucky to Captain America's sidekick.
Kayla's face.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
That's just his name.
Yeah,
I mean, like, you can't replace.
Yeah.
I'm the new Bucky.
Yeah. Well, his name was, what was it?
James. Mantle.
James Buchanan Barnes. Yeah, tell that to Jane Foster when she became Thor. Booyah. Okay.
Well, the hammer does say whoever possesses this hammer does.
But not the name. The power of Thor.
The power of Thor.
It's like if there was a contract that was like, if you sign this paper, you get the backpack of Noah. And it's like, well, I'm Noah now. It was like you have his backpack.
I would agree.
I have the pack. Yeah.
I would agree just because Jane was Thor.
Yeah, I can't wait till you cut this part out. Anyway, okay. But yeah, so Rick Jones did a number of those sort of things. And then I can't spend too much time. He did also become A-Bomb, which was the second Abomination. So that's another thing to consider about Rick Jones is that, like many boring characters, he ends up becoming a superhero all his own. And then he stayed around for a while. He didn't really do much, but
now he's gone.
Yeah.
He went to the comic book graveyard.
Yeah. I really don't want to. He has a rich history unto himself. He was around for a long time. I don't want to undersell that, but in relationship to the Hulk, he really just provided just another buddy, and also a kind of normal anchor-like character to be, a kind of.
I mean, he was the catalyst for him becoming the Hulk.
But him sticking around, he just kind of became like, it's like a lot of Hulk stories are Hulk leaving, normal society and being chased, and nobody understands the Hulk. But, one guy, one is like...
Not his wife.
I understand you, Hulk. Well, she loves him, but it's like, she's like, you're a monster now, whatever. And Rick Jones is like, I get you, buddy. So let's have a sandwich or something like that. And but the sidekick thing becomes an important trope for Hulk in a certain way. Because, again, he's like this big hulking monster. It's hard for him to have a relationship with, like, normal people or whatever. So you kind of have to have a tag along. The one in the more recent stories, was like Amadeus Cho.
Yeah.
So Greg Pak is the guy that wrote Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, and Amadeus Cho, sort of this billionaire. Sorry, not billionaire. I just connect billionaire and genius when we're talking about comics so much.
That's usually, yeah. Bruce Wayne.
So he's was like, I think they were the 7th smartest man. And I don't know why they had to put a number on it or whatever.
Very specific.
But when Hulk came back during the World War Hulk saga, he kind of was the only person that still saw a kind of like humanity left in the Hulk. He's very Mary Sue. Greg Pak really pushed this character that nobody else seemed to like. I mean, he was fine. I don't want to crap on him too much, but And then when Hulk. But it's so weird. Like, the Hulk was like, I don't like you, little kid. I mean, he wasn't really that affectionate back. And then he started hanging out with Hercules. So Amadeus Cho became Hercules' sidekick. And that was just kind of his thing. And then the reason he's still kind of relevant is that when one of the iterations where Bruce Banner lost his gamma radiation, Amadeus Cho became the totally awesome Hulk. So he kind of became Hulk all of a sudden.
Much better tagline.
Yeah.
Totally awesome.
Because you could believe it. So he wasn't incredible. You could believe it. Yeah. Anyway, and so that's kind of the sidekicks. That's those two. Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't consider them sidekicks, but...
I mean, they were in a kind of based on the definition of the word.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But,
I mean, there are no Robins.
Yeah. No, that's true. I don't think when
Can
we
this be a Robin episode now?
Well, I think when we do a
Caitlin's
sidekick,
awake now.
when we do a sidekick episode, I don't think we're gonna be talking that much about.
Oh, it's only going to be maybe their
Yeah.
sidekicks.
and again, I don't want to discourage anybody from checking these characters out. They have a
Of
rich
course not.
history, but it's again.
This is a Hulk deep dive.
Exactly.
It's not their deep
Yeah,
dive.
and also more importantly, if you're a new reader, you might run into these names because they are pretty consistent. So that just you have some sense of who they are. This next character may not be that important, but he's too weird not to mention, and that is
Leave it to Jared.
Doc Samson. It's so bizarre. So the Bruce Banner has the split personality, and so he needs the services of a shrink, which is where we get Leonard. I can't remember his last name. You can look it up, but he goes by Samson as a nickname because he's Jewish. And I feel like that there's not Jewish people are underrepresented in comic books. So he's a Jewish character. And he has this moment where he's trying to help Bruce, but Bruce also gets the gamma energy transferred away from him. And Leonard has to admit, I'd like to be superpowered. So he uses, he irradiates himself and becomes the character Doc Samson. And he's a super strong Marvel brick. Do you guys know what that means, by the way, when I say brick?
I know what a brick is.
No, so this is a comic trope, and you hear it's basically just the character whose powers are just being strong, durable, nothing else.
Like Luke Cage.
Yeah, like Luke Cage and Thing and Colossus and Titania and She-Hulk and Hercules. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Marvel specifically. Anyway, so but he has long green hair, and for a while his powers are stabilized. A long time his powers depend on the length of his hair, just like the mythical Samson.
Oh, that wasn't
I
foreshadowing.
see.
at all.
Exactly. But eventually they stabilize and it doesn't matter. But he always has the green hair.
Trust him.
And he's been a consistently important character as a therapist. As a matter of fact, just like that, if you have a job in DC or Marvel, you'll have to do it. If somebody needs some head shrinking, somebody needs some therapy, they're going to go to Doc Samson. But anyway, yeah. So, and he was responsible for merging the Hulk, for doing the therapy that brought the Hulk together.
Oh.
So he's a pretty important character.
So he's really good at his job.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
mean, he turned out to be wrong and failed miserably, but
Never mind.
he does
I
some
forgot.
good. There was also in that period where he was supposed to be helping Bruce Banner, he ends up kind of absorbing the energy and becoming Samson and everything like that, and so there was a kind of guilt on his part. So he's always felt kind of responsible to Bruce and helping him, stuff like that. So that's Doc Samson. I just think he's really cool. He can't get enough. Yeah. There's no other character not a lot of people copying him in other. There's no DC version of Doc Samson.
There's one called Samson, though.
Yeah, but he's actually Samson.
I know.
This is way more original. This is not like
There's plenty of shrinks that have become other things.
If you say so. Okay, so I'll let the listener decide whether he's original or not. Anyway,
I didn't say he wasn't original.
Yeah. But so next, and we're kind of moving away from the straight up supportive characters, and we're going into
Slightly darker territory.
little antagonistic. We talked about General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. And you guys are probably familiar with him because he showed up in the movies as William Hurt, and he's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of early Savage Hulk moments are him getting chased by guys in tanks. So you need a main dude with a hat and gray hair that's like, I'm gonna get you or whatever. So this is also, as you know, Betty's dad, and he's dedicated. And I don't know. I think early on he was just tasked out to stop the Hulk. I don't know why he personally cared about it, but weirdly enough, this is his daughter's husband. So you can see why
He already hated him.
Well, but think about it the other way, which is that he's trying to stop the Hulk, and the Hulk is destroying everything, and he can't stop him, and he's failed as a military person. And then somebody's like, "Oh yeah, you know that guy? He's also fucking your daughter." I'll kill you! I'm so mad now. Yeah. So that's how. Yeah. Clearly, I would be angry too. Anyway. So I mean, in Hulk stories, General Thunderbolt Ross ends up just sort of being the kind of
military opposition.
Exactly. He represents a kind of establishment or society or something like that. And he isn't really used much past that. I mean, and that's not important, but there was a story that came out by Jeff Loeb in the early 2000s called Red Hulk. And it really is a kind of a new era for the Hulk, because when we get a bunch of colored Hulks or whatever.
The Skittles.
Yeah. But this, in some sense, is a spoiler for the story, but because the story is a mystery, like who is the Red Hulk? But he kills the Abomination, who we find out earlier had killed Betty Ross, his daughter.
Yep.
But
Fuck
we
him.
don't know. Yeah, exactly. And they do some misdirection where you're like, oh, it can't be General Ross or whatever. And then it turns out it's him the whole time. And so the Red Hulk generally has the power of...
Red Hulking.
He's hulking like that. He doesn't get stronger when he gets angry, but he can absorb energy, which they greatly dampened later on, because when he starts, he's like, he can absorb infinite amounts of energy, and like he punched the Watcher. He knocked him out, which is a real dick move, because the Watcher's a cool guy.
Sebastian Shaw's powers, like
Similar, but it's more like a radiated energy. So it wasn't if you punched him in the face. It was more like, so the Hulk's got all this like gamma radiation that he could just kind of absorb. Turned out it was killing him, so he had to give that away. But he's still basically
give the power away.
Yeah, they had to go and intervene. Like, I can't remember which scientist did it, which super scientist, but they had to remove that power because it was going to kill him. That was the idea.
They can do that.
In this case, yes.
Nerfed.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
And that really was what it was that like Jeff Loeb, who isn't always the most thoughtful creator. Just that he made him to the point where it's like, well, there's no way. I think he punched the Watcher. Like, he just wanted him to be nearly infinitely powerful. And then people were like, well, if we're going to keep the character, we can't just have him do that. Yeah. So anyway, so that's the Red Hulk. Real strong. Oh, he gets, instead of getting really, he would get really hot, and like burn things.
Like a hot
tamale.
tamale.
Just gave off, yeah. And
all these candies they're comparing the Hulks to.
Yeah. And
Who would have known?
Yeah. And so, and then he has this weird trajectory himself. He was a villain. Then he was a sort of misunderstood guy. Then, when he's captured, he becomes an Avenger. And he honestly, he's in Bendis's Avengers for a while, and it kind of makes sense, honestly. Like, he's a general, so he's used to working with the establishment. He's so unlike the Hulk, he's intelligent the whole time. He's not, and he's tactically smart and everything like that.
Oh, I was hoping they would both be like saying Betty, like to each other when they're fighting.
No, he's like Betty.
My Betty.
No, this is
my Betty.
This is more like J. Jonah Jameson if he was a big Red Hulk. I mean, that's very similar characters.
Oh, that's true. Oh, God,
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
So then he also starts his own iteration of the Thunderbolts. Yeah.
Because of his name.
Yeah, I think so. And also it was a really weird period where they just wanted everybody who was red and black. Mm-hmm. Real, honestly. Like, it's just like, because the Punisher and Deadpool and Elektra and all that. Anyway.
I guess aesthetically it looks
and
menacing.
He would go around and like, it was sort of Suicide Squad-y. Like that iteration of the Thunderbolts, they'd go and find like bad guys that other people didn't want to deal with or whatever.
That's weird.
And then recently in the Doc Green Hulk storyline, he was depowered. So that's where we are, just a general. But then he got like, I guess they decided he abandoned his country by being the Red Hulk.
So he's a treasonous general.
Yeah, so he's,
Weird.
Yeah, I think Thunderbolt Ross, right? Unless some... Like, I don't know what's going on in the latest series, so he may be in a different situation, but that's basically Thunderbolt Ross.
Wow.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Kind of good, kind of bad,
scary.
kind of normal, kind of red.
That's a lot of Hulk characters. Well, moving on to a person who's kind of just bad.
Always been.
These are the villains.
Yeah. As I do.
Yep.
The Abomination is where we'll start. Stanley Gil Kane was created in 1967, so just a couple of years after the Hulk's first appearance. Appeared in Tales of Astonish. So turns out this KGB agent,
Of course.
Emil Blonsky, he was there the whole time, right? So he was assigned to the Air Force Base, where Bruce was working on that cool bomb, taking pictures. And when it exploded, he got a whole bunch of gamma rays to the face. More than Bruce did. So that's why he looks the way he does.
That's why he's ugly.
He is ugly. Just look, Google a picture.
He looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, he
Mixed
does.
with, like, Doomsday.
Pointy,
Yeah.
scaly,
Yeah.
hulky. Bleh. But yeah, so no, he was there the whole time, guys. I know we introduced him a couple years later, but he was there. You just didn't look close enoughly at the panel. Anyway, so he goes in and out of stories a lot, but he's basically been there since the beginning. When Bruce realizes that the Abomination is out there, they fight. He defeats him. He disappears for a while. He's later imprisoned and being experimented on, and Thor shows up and is like, oh no, this poor person needs my help. And then Thor releases him.
Oh, good job, Thor.
And then when Thor realizes what he did, he uses his, buddy hammer to go back in time and stop.
Oh, yeah. Thor used to have the ability to go back to time.
Yeah. I know, I was reading this and I was like, cool, Thor. Also, that could have saved a lot of problems.
That same person that took that power to take this, he took that power too. Whoever this guy is.
Mjolnir's not able to teleport through time now.
That was Odin. He literally did it. He took the power away.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess that makes sense.
Also, I just, in that case, Thor may have messed up. I'm sure he had the best intentions.
He did, though. He was like, this poor suffering creature is being experimented on. So he unleashed him. And then when he realized what he did, he's like, oh, shit. And then went back in time to stop him from doing that.
I get it. Who hasn't been there?
The Abominations ended up in space. He was the first mate of this space crew for a while. When Bruce stumbled upon them, it was like, I'm finally free of my arch foe, the Abomination. I'm in space. And it turns out on the ship, the Abomination is the first mate.
I don't think you mentioned, what can the Abomination do? Yeah, well, he's like a big, strong guy. That's like that.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
No, but if you've never read the comic or had a sense, like the Abomination, the idea is like he's the first dude who could fight the Hulk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fist to green fist.
It's kind of like what I was mentioning earlier, where I was just like, a lot of the Hulk stories when it's just like, who can punch the hardest?
Yeah.
Like, I need someone to go toe to toe with the Hulk's strength. The Abomination normally shows up.
Get in there, fish face.
He is really scaly.
Yeah. See, that's probably why he's so mad, because people keep making fun of him. He just needs some moisturizer.
That's the one thing they get right in the movie, I think, by the way.
Yeah, he does look gross.
Well, he looks gross, but also just the idea that like, oh, he's still smart.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of a new thing in the like, oh, it's a guy who's not a big dummy.
It's creepy because it's thinking.
Yeah. He can open doors.
If only the Hulk could.
Yeah.
I mean, they can just go through walls. I don't think door opening is a pivotal skill there.
No, but it is cute to imagine the Hulk trying to like open the doorknob and he can't get it. And he's
breaks
just like,
it. But sometimes he works with Ross in terms of trying to contain the Hulk, capture the Hulk. So sometimes Ross will channel him and be like, hey, stop him for me. Other times he'll work with the Hulk temporarily to stop Ross. So he swans in and out of being Ross's side person. I don't want to say sidekick.
Depending on when they're bad or good or what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Because comics. Works with the Galaxy Master. You mentioned MODOK. He's disintegrated by MODOK. But of course, because it's a comic, he comes back.
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced MODOK.
MODOK disintegrates him. He's brought back by Mephisto. He also, in and out of the Abomination, or I guess Emil Blonsky's stories, he sometimes stalks his ex-wife.
That's not creepy. I mean, who doesn't stalk people on Facebook now? That was just what they could do at the time.
That's the nicest thing about that guy.
Yeah, he cares, quote unquote, about his ex-wife still.
As long as he didn't go like full, like you, like then it's fine.
It's like, Sharon, I miss you. I really do. Who smashed my Jeep? I don't know. Oh, he's got a Russian accent. Just insert in post the rest.
Well, I mean, basically, Bruce kind of intervenes there in terms of him, like, stalking his ex-wife. Bruce is like, that's not cool. Actively tries to stop that. And then that's how the Abomination is tied into the murder of Betty Ross. Because he's like, if I can't have my wife, you can't have your wife.
Yeah, that's healthy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Abomination, great dude. Yeah. Villain.
Mentally stable.
He's obviously killed after World War Hulk. He's back now.
Of course.
He looks too cool, and he's got too important a function.
I mean, he's cool. It's just he has died a lot. And
he's swanned in and out of the Hulk's history that I don't think Abomination could ever go away.
Exactly.
So he's always going to be coming back.
I don't think he should.
No,
Rich part of his history.
A rich part. All right, so That's Abomination. Moving on. We're talking about the leader next. Samuel Stearns. He Tales of Astonish. Again, a lot of these characters came out right when a Tales of Astonish started.
It's always
happening.
like Journey into Mystery, Tales of Astonish, or Fantastic Four.
Tales of Suspense.
Yeah.
It's like all of
Amazing
the
Tales.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Stanley created him.
What?
I know, right? What?
Hard to believe.
He is in the Thunderbolts relaunch now. He was a janitor. So, I mean, he actually has kind of a tragic origin story where, like, Emil is a KGB agent who was spying on the United States. So, we know when he got gamma rayed to the face, you're like, oh, well, I mean.
You should have been spying.
Yeah, exactly. But Stearns was a janitor. And he went, I guess he was doing his job, but then in, like, an underground storage facility exploded. He got exposed to gamma rays.
What?
That's the trend here.
I mean, basically, everyone has a very similar thing.
Wait, did
where
you say he was in a school?
It was just like a storage facility.
Oh, okay.
underneath.
I was
It
like, why was there gamma in a school?
They thought it was smart to hide it beneath the school.
It's one of those like exemplary like technology and science bullshit nerd schools.
He's like mopping, and he's like, it's glowing green in here. We're paying you to mop, not to ask questions. You get there, you mop. How big your head gets.
But the radiation turns him green-skinned. He has a big, gigantic brain. Super intelligent entity. Names himself the leader. And starts embarking on a career of crime.
He becomes as smart as the Hulk is strong.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Stupid.
they needed to introduce an intelligent villain for the Hulk, and that's where the leader
I
came
guess
in.
like to appease to
Makes
his
sense.
like Bruce Banner side.
I mean, not everyone could be super strong and
yeah.
punchy.
I mean,
Well, it's a Lex
I agree.
Luthor trope.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that, well, I know we were talking about this earlier. This has been done way better. So
Yeah.
I'm not very fond of the leader.
I'm a fan of these comics on the Marvel side, and I really had to struggle to think of leader moments that really stood out to me, and I really couldn't think of any. But
It's
if
just
you're
the nature of his character. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a listener and you're a big fan of the leader, please like write in to our social media and like tell us what's cool about him. I'd love to know.
Yeah, kind of
He has a big head.
pinpoint some stuff for us. But yeah, repeatedly foiled by the Hulk. He has henchmen called the Humanoids, which is hilarious.
You
Yeah.
add oid to anything, and it's scary. Like, I'll give you an example. Lemurs, great. Lemurids. Oh no, they've got knives. No, I don't think so.
Don't bring up lamers.
Yeah.
I mean, but basically throughout the Hulk's history, when there's something smart and not just military-wise, so if it's not the government or if it's not something from space,
Or gamma related.
exactly, it's the leader.
Yeah.
His master plan that's obviously always foiled.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the intelligentsia,
Yeah.
important to some of the Hulk storylines.
Yeah, that's apparently where the Red Hulk came from.
Yeah, I really like that group, by the way, just as an idea. I haven't seen him too much since this.
Yeah.
But you got the Red Ghost, which is an old Fantastic Four. I love him. I'm a huge Red Ghost.
No, I'm just saying we've said like red a lot.
No,
in
I
this
know.
episode.
He's also
and we're talking about a green
well, he's
cat.
Russian. That's why he's red. It's got MODOK. It's got who the leader. It's got like I think two
Red
or
Hulk.
three more I'm missing. Well, he was like a creation of theirs. They were all a bunch of
think
bad guys. Oh, Mad Thinker
Lyra.
was in it. She wasn't part of. These are all just smart.
Hulked out
No,
heroes.
She was like associated with them
Yeah.
and working for them, but it's like the point is like a bunch of dummies, or I mean, smart guys that.
The stupidest smart guys around
Yeah.
all formed a group.
I mean, basically, they're all like Dr. Doomy, and they're all like, "We're not as smart as them. I'm smart. Let's make a."
It's like the
robot."
Legion of Doom. They
Yeah.
always think that they have the upper hand, and
Yeah.
they're not.
How do you
ever.
bash Dr. Doom that way?
Well, he's got the whole Reed Richards thing. Like, Richards, I know how to do math too. Damn it. Whatever.
But I mean, like, I guess I know where Dr. Doom's coming from because
Yeah,
Reed, yeah.
I get it.
Anyway, yep. So that's the leader.
Yeah, I mean, it to your credit, I mean, he is very weird to like look at because He's not necessarily has his hand in every pot.
Yeah.
But you don't know that he does or not, just because he's this big, like, strategic guy. So.
No, yeah. So I apologize. I know a lot less about the Hulk's villains than I did about a lot of the past deep dive stuff that I had to focus on.
But I agree with Kayla that some of the leader's problem is that there are other characters that do what he does on the Marvel stage, but better. MODOK is a great example. Like, if I'm looking for a scary, smart guy with a big head, I'm going MODOK every time.
Yeah.
He is only a big head.
That's exactly it.
He's only a head.
You're going to out-head him? No, you're not. It's MODOK.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes. So the last villain that we can touch on, Jared mentioned him, the Maestro.
I love him so much.
Writer Peter David and then George Perez. He's actually relatively new-ish to comics. Came in The Incredible Hulk 1992. So he's a Hulk from an alternate future that possesses Bruce Banner's intelligence and the Hulk's more malevolent personality traits. So
I think he looks cool as fuck.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, if you say so.
I'm into it.
It's better than ripped purple shorts.
I suppose. No, I can't even give you that. It's just so weird. The hair on him, and it's
called a beard.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It looks so gross.
It is weird because he's got a beard and a kind of balding head with long hair.
I was gonna say because he has a mustache, but he also has like a beard, quote unquote, that goes around his head, but he's bald, so it kind of looks like it's just a neck beard. It's disgusting.
I think he looks like a wise old Hulk.
It's insanely villainous.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks pretty terrifying.
By the way, I looked it up. It's actually pronounced Villainous. Continue.
Anyway, he's from a future about 100 years in the past where nuclear war happened. So not great. Killed almost all of Earth's superhumans. And basically the world is on the brink of extinction. So he was driven mad by nuclear radiation. I think his purpose in terms of like where he comes in the Hulk stories, it's kind of like a creepy alternate version of himself that he's actively trying to avoid, which just goes into more of the like mental struggles that Hulk / Bruce Banner.
He's like a terrifying doppelganger that won't leave him alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
So there's this whole idea of like, why is a Hulk really powerful or strong or something like that? And the rationale at the time was he's mad, like crazy. And so that's why he was so much more at the time is stronger and more powerful than the previous Hulks, because he was able to tap into a level of anger due to madness.
Yeah, I mean, he could be just mad at the spoons.
Oh, yeah, deeply was.
Just more mad than anybody would get.
Yeah.
Spoons. There's not enough spoons here. I'm sorry. I don't think all crazy people don't like spoons, but that's I don't know.
Yeah, that's not the impression we want to leave you with. We don't think crazy people hate spoons. Don't write.
All right, comic book recommendations time to end this deep dive on the Hulk. So I will recommend a She-Hulk one, because I know these two are probably going to recommend a Hulk, and she's just as good.
Yeah, we'll recommend the character that the thing is about.
Yeah.
But the one I'm recommending her series was called Just Hulk. Just Hulk. It wasn't She-Hulk or anything. It was during the Marvel Now initiative. It was right after Civil War II. So if you saw that, you know what happened to Bruce. But yeah, so it picks up right after that. It was 2017, I believe, when it first came out by Mariko Tamaki, I think it was. Yeah. So pick that one up. It's about She-Hulk dealing with everything that happened after Civil War II. So it's really good. The artwork is amazing.
Everything is always chaotic after a civil war. So.
Yeah. It's her picking the pieces back up, reconstructing what had happened, and it's really good.
All right. Well, I'll recommend. It's called Return of the Monster is the story. It's Incredible Hulk number 34 through 39, written by Bruce Jones. It's basically the Hulk gets blamed for the death of a child, and so Bruce Banner does some pretty serious introspection, and it turns out it's like forces like made it look that way. He was framed.
Poor guy.
But it does kind of deal with like the Hulk's chaotic, monstery nature versus like Bruce Banner's like inner
The
conflict.
duality.
Yeah, exactly.
Poor Bruce Banner. It's like, oh, you're a huge rage machine and it's ruined your life. Also, you got framed.
I know. He's like, the premise is like he's hitchhiking and he figures out that it wasn't him, but it doesn't help. You know, he still has to deal with the fact that the Hulk is him.
Poor guy.
My recommendation is we've talked about it already on the show. It's Hulk: Future Imperfect. This is the story where Hulk goes and into the future, the apocalyptic future, and fights the Maestro. Introduce the Maestro. I think what shows you how good this story is it's 2 issues, and it's gone down as one of the most amazing paradigmatic Hulk comics of all time.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's George Perez, Peter David. Peter David, if you don't know, for a long time was the Hulk writer.
Yeah.
George Perez is an amazing artist. Came out in 1992. You're gonna read it and you're gonna love it. It's a fantastic story. It's Hulk meets Blade Runner. It's really good.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at The Phantom Zone Pod for more podcast updates.
You're weird.
You're goddamn right.